welcome to my guests, Boundless Gratitudes, and to my guest, Matt Drewno, who has developed into a friend reflective of our time and experience learning about the earth and the fruits of the earth that sustain us to be alive, vital, and aspiring human beings on this planet. So I've invited Matt in. He is the executive manager for the gardens, the food gardens of Stanford Ranch Inn on the Mendocino Coast. He is also the managing director for the Victory Gardens that are also part of these gardens. He'll speak a little bit to those. He originally came from Ecology Action Gardens in Willits. Ecology Action's been around for 30 years. 48 years. And it's about living life in connectivity with the earth. And as we live life in connectivity with the earth, we learn how important it is to nurture the plants that come from the earth to sustain us to be all we can be. And yet, if we don't take care of the bedrock, which is our planet Earth, then all of this matters not. So Matt is just a conscious individual, continues to aspire and inspire, and that is why we are meeting today. So I've got a few questions for you, buddy.
Thank you, David, for that nice question.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. So my first question for you, my friend, is why is the work that you do with Ecology Action and all the interns you work with nationally and internationally and working in these gardens on a daily basis, why is this of such passionate interest to you?
Yeah, well, I think I grew up in a situation in the suburbs of Chicago, and it was pretty lucky and perfect. I didn't really have to worry about anything, and yet I also felt like a very strong disconnect to the natural world around me and to people also. Kind of this paradox of growing up with comfort in a middle-class family and,
Yes.
and then just wanting to go out and explore and find a greater connection. So to me, this work really represents connection. And it's connection, like you said, with the earth, connection with people. And it's really, for me, there's something inside of me that drives me to find the holism in things, the holistic aspect of everything around me, to feel like integrated parts of it.
Yes.
And so the garden is the perfect playground for that.
Yes.
And then working together with people around the world to address issues of food security, to just help each other, makes me feel connected too. So there's almost, for me, the best part of it is I get to experience constantly this realization that there's no separation between my working life, my home life, my professional life, my friend life. It's all integrated in a group of people that are working to work the earth and work with each other to create a new paradigm where there's enough for everyone, including the planet.
Do you, with the work that you do and all the people that you have touched and you've mentored along the way, you obviously have a faith that we will move through the various gauntlets that life and the planet delivers, and we are going to realize a whole new level of fruition as human beings and as a planet.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I believe it. More than hope, I believe it. I think it's almost like we don't learn things by having everything given to us, by having an easy go at it. We learn through mistakes. We learn through
Yes.
the struggle. I was recently reading. My partner and I just had a child, and there's this great book by Joseph Chilton Pierce called The Magical Child.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever read that?
No,
It's a
my
great
wife
book.
has. She's the Waldorf teacher.
But he has some scientific studies that he cites in there about how the stress response in humans actually builds neural networks, and it releases through, I think, the pineal gland, one of the glands.
Mm-hmm.
Chemicals are released that actually cause brain cells to connect, and it leads to a heightened state of awareness, and actually learning occurs then. So I think these kind of new birth into a new reality that we're experiencing right now is going to be full with challenges, and it's those necessary challenges that bring us right up to the edge that will enable us to see what's in front and behind and under and over.
Yes.
And maybe enter into a new relationship with each other. But it's sad that there's a lot of people suffering right now. It's not a romantic idea. There's
Yes.
it's really challenging for a lot of people. So I hope that it's a good transition.
Well, I appreciate your perspective, because what we garner from most news outlets is negativity, because we can't have it the way it was, and look at all the problems that we're dealing with now, and how the heck is it ever going to get better? And yet, we as human beings, my feeling and my faith is that we were born to meet the inherent various challenges of life, rise above them, and realize all the more clearly and expansively who we are, and make a difference in bringing this planet forth and our fellow human species forth.
Love it.
So so you see us as being on the cusp of, in essence, a transformation. If we choose to take the yellow brick road, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like the birth analogy, having just kind of experienced all
Yes.
that. But the mom and the baby could die too.
Yeah.
So it's, there's a huge potential in this moment to transform everything, but it could be, if we drop the ball on it, it could get really ugly before it gets better. So I hope, I trust that people are sensitive enough and aware enough that we're going to be able to adapt and evolve and shift. Sometimes I watch the news and hear things, and I'm a little set back in that hope, but I know it's possible. I've seen it in communities around the world, and some of the most beautiful things I've ever seen with this work have been in some of the toughest communities that are already at the bottom.
So give us an example of some of these communities that you have had the privilege to visit, and the transformation you have been party to supporting them through.
Yeah, well, a couple years ago I went to Nicaragua to, we have a network of teachers around the world. This method we do, called biointensive agriculture, has been proven in over 150 countries in every soil and climate where food can be grown. And that's the beauty of it, is it's a pattern language for agriculture that can be quickly applied and adapted and integrated into a culture. And it's really about a community of people around the world doing this work and feeding back into the knowledge of what this work is and how we do it.
Yes.
So we, from time to time, we go to another place where this work is happening and just kind of check in with our extended family of teachers. And in Nicaragua, it's been, the movement of biointensive community-based agriculture has exploded. And
in spite of all of what we read in regards to the governmental and the social turmoil.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's directly related to that. I think the more people are, Nicaragua is the second poorest country in Latin America, if you count Haiti as being the first. So that might give some folks a sense who aren't familiar with Nicaragua as much as we might know about Haiti. Nicaragua is pretty low on the chain, and they've had a rough, couple decades. And so it's interesting because in a certain way, these places have a lot further to fall. They're already kind of at the bottom, and so there's so much we have to learn. Not anticipating that we're going to end up on the bottom or fall, but to see what resilience actually means in a real world application. So yeah, going and visiting those teachers, where over the course of a couple years, over 100 teachers have been certified to teach this community-based agriculture.
In Nicaragua alone, not counting all the other countries you've worked in.
Yeah. And I've only worked directly in a few countries, but some of the people who have catalyzed this movement have done an incredible job. Every country in Latin America has certified teachers now. And this work is really about community empowerment. So where I've really gotten a growth spurt from working with that Nicaragua situation is just seeing how, despite really challenging situations politically, socially, economically, the smiles and the joy and the celebration behind people taking the rubble, piecing it
Yes.
together, and growing sustenance,
Yes.
keeping alive that seed that's in humanity, of working with each other on the earth to build community. It's just beautiful. That gives me so much hope.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
despite what's going on here, we've got it pretty good right now. Most of us, a lot of us are struggling right now, and there's a lot of, nothing's perfect at all, but this country sure has its challenges, but knowing that those things blossom in really tough situations. Look at Detroit as another example.
Yes.
Which I haven't worked directly in Detroit, but you can see how they went through a transformation. And those folks who still struggle day to day dealing with the government threatening to turn off their water because they can't afford to pay the bills, because their economy collapsed, because the corporations cut and run on them.
Yes.
And all the race riots that happened and everything that's kind of traumatized that community. But you look at what the people have done to kind of repossess their community and take it back and transform it into something where children are playing in these community gardens and people are eating healthy food. Schools are connecting with each other to get by, and families are moving in because it's cheap to rent there and buy land there now. And, so yeah, there's a lot of hope in these moments that seem like they're really not good.
So the old cry, power to the people. Power is in the people, and so often we have to go through the most challenging turmoil to realize the resources that we've been given to step up and out. And you're speaking to testimonial.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us think that the power is outside of us. We're kind of taught to believe that. Like, we need a politician.
We need a government.
Yeah, we need a scientist to solve climate change. We need a politician to solve this social issue here in my community.
Yes.
And what you realize through doing this kind of, like, no pun intended, but grassroots work of growing soil beneath your feet and nurturing community around that, you see that it's in each of us to do that.
Yes.
It's actually about the relationships that we form in our communities that bring resilience. It's not some technology or some idea. It's the real world in the moment work of being present, working with each other, that forms that foundation. And if we don't have that foundation, we are disempowered because we're constantly searching outside ourselves for some solution.
Yes. Yes.
It's internal. And when we realize that, the world kind of transforms. You can find hope.
We create the world's transformation.
Yeah.
So give us a picture, a clarified picture of how biointensive gardening is a distinctive contribution to the nurturing of our gardens and our foods.
Yeah. So about 20 years ago, I got into farming because I thought it was this romantic, great idea of getting back to the land. And I spent my first 7 years farming on a tractor. Barely even touched the earth. I was just driving this machine and breathing exhaust, and it was loud. I couldn't hear the birds around me. I was just ripping through the soil with metal blades. And then I realized this, to me, didn't really represent the kind of relationship to the earth that I was romantically envisioning for myself. And so I realized I needed to get on the ground and off the tractor. And so searching for a solution to what I saw coming was some serious challenges for food and water and soil and peace and other resources.
How was it you were drawn to the farm in the first place?
Well, I grew up in a garden with my mom.
Okay.
And I was kind of the weeder, growing up. And then I saw it as a chore.
We all are.
Yeah. I saw it as a chore, and I ran away from that probably in my early teens. And then, so it was inside of me, and I think it's in all of our blood. You only have to go back a generation or two, and 90% of our population farmed, and the rest of the world, especially in the global south, over 90% of people engaged in farming.
Yes.
But so I growing up in high school, I actually had some psychedelic experiences when I was young that made me feel this kind of connection in my late teenage years that kind of woke me out of this rebellion stage that I was in, and made me feel something outside of myself that I wanted to connect to that was actually inside, and that whole paradox. that psychedelics can do with us. But yeah, went away to college, studied architecture, and just kept asking questions.
Yes.
I kept seeing the world around me and seeing here I am about to graduate with, $125,000 of debt. And I want to live a good, wholesome lifestyle. And to me, that was more than just getting a job and raising a family
Yes.
and buying a house. But it was about exploring what am I? Who am I?
Yeah.
Why do,
So you
why
stepped
do
out
humans
of the mold.
exist?
You stepped out. What was that?
Yeah, like why do we exist? What's
Yes.
the point of life? Why are we here? What,
Yes.
What am I supposed to do with this? Like, what am I going to do? Why, these mysteries.
You chose to question.
Yeah, and I've always questioned.
Yes.
That's what's led me to biointensive is that the more questions I ask about what's an appropriate way forward for humanity, and realizing that we're all becoming fractured and isolated, and we're being pushed apart, and the stresses that we're feeling from climate change, from politics, from all this perfect storm of all these conditions that we're facing, it could either bring us together or tear us apart. And the way it can bring us together is when we all realize our power and we all work together and find that source in ourselves, that endless well of inspiration and hard work to do this stuff. That we can all take through that personal empowerment and community empowerment a stakehold in our future, which is what's necessary for us to actually create a peaceful and just, equal
Yes.
world for everybody. We each have to have a stakeholder. And so this work with biointensive is so direct, and it so efficiently and joyfully meets the most basic needs for food security and for peace. Because without healthy food, you can't even think.
Right.
You don't have the energy to work with people or be happy. You need to have nutrition. And without nurturing the soil, you can't have healthy nutrition, because the soil is the foundation for it. That's where our nutrition comes from. And if it's deficient in copper, the copper is not going to come through your food, and you're going to be deficient in copper.
Yes.
So this giving and taking and nurturing that which nurtures you, and working with community to build a new foundation for peace in the future and sustainability. There's no other form of agriculture. The more questions I asked, I kept seeing like this idea in agriculture stops here, and it can't go further before it starts leaving people behind and leaving the planet behind. And so, well, where do we go from here? And it's like, okay, so checking this out. And so I tried. I've got all these certifications in ecological restoration and permaculture and all these things. The best solution for me is the simplest solution.
Mm-hmm.
And the most powerful solution that I've studied scientifically quantified and qualified is the power of backyard and community gardening,
Mm-hmm.
which is how humans have always done it. But we've been kind of turned into consumers and adopted consumerism, which is the
Yes.
search outside ourselves
Yes.
for that which sustains us.
Yes.
So that direct relationship of working with the soil is the most exciting thing about biointensive for me, is that connection where you actually start blurring. It's something you can't buy, right? Like you can go buy some organic produce, but what you miss in there is that connection to the whole system of nature, your mother, which birthed you,
Yes.
which sustains you. And when you can honor that connection by giving back more than you take,
Yes.
that's love.
Yes.
And that's there can be love in purchasing things too, but there's something powerful that's in there with that connection that just is so has so much potential behind it.
Well, when I took the class last year with you in Mendocino for 10 weeks, I believe, with fellow interns, and what really stood out for me in regards to this approach to gardening is just the diligent honoring of the soil. There's a special approach that I integrated in regards to how you prepare the bed for all of these plants, and how you continue to nurture it and feed it and actually build more soil than that which you started with.
Yeah.
That, I think, is just and you had spoken to how critical that is today, because we have just ravaged our soil planet-wise. And if we don't we're on the cusp, as we're on the cusp climatologically of some major shifts in how we experience life. We're on the cusp of some major shifts in terms of how we feed ourselves if we don't get a grip on our soil relationship.
Yeah, I mean, the UN came out in 2015 and said there's 60 years of soil. So how are we going to have food if we have no soil? The UN came out a couple years ago and said by 2030, 2/3 of the world's population is not going to have enough water to grow their own food. Just to give you a perspective, like we can install a low-flow toilet and a low-flow shower and save like 14 gallons of water a day. And then we can go out for lunch and eat a hamburger, which might have taken 400 to 600 gallons just to grow the hamburger.
Oh.
So the connection of diet and our lifestyle choices to the water and the soil is huge. And when you become aware of that and realize the power of what you can do in your backyard to offset some of those footprints, soil footprint, water footprint, energy footprint, carbon footprint, and then you multiply that over the population and you see like, holy cow, if we can give back more than we take, we could actually restore the entire planet. Instead of running out of soil in 60 years, instead of running out of water in 10 years, we could actually restore the entire planet and recreate a Garden of Eden where there's enough for everybody, including Mother Nature, including the expected 9 to 10 billion people that are supposed to be on the planet by 2050. And so we're at something like 8, and we're already experiencing resource shortages. And so, these challenges that we face are the opportunities that we actually need to develop the stress response. It's not a violent outburst, but a realization of our own power and responsibility to do these things, like you're saying, building soil and working with people to do that. And the methods that we use are really just what people have been doing for thousands of years. And it's persisted over that time because those cultures which used these methods persisted. They survived because they had a healthy relationship with the earth. So we've kind of just gone around and seen what are the best practices throughout time and throughout all these different cultures around the world that we can integrate into a whole systems perspective within the context of our modern understanding of what sustainability means, and within the context of climate change, population challenges, water scarcity, soil scarcity. How can we create a system that with one subtle, beautiful, graceful integration of yourself into your garden, that it can positively address each of those issues all at once with the least amount of effort.
So how do you feel about the momentum, and or what does it take to stir the momentum?
The momentum of
delivering this awakening to the need to pay attention today.
Well, I think we're at this critical moment where, especially with the virus and all these other things, especially with the virus and all these other things and the politics of the situation and isolation, everyone is reflecting and thinking about where do we go from here? What's the world going to be like? What are we going to do? How are we going to come out of this? So there's been we've started a few initiatives. The Victory Gardens for Peace initiative, which is a project of Ecology Action. So I work for Ecology Action as well as for the Stanford and run an initiative called the Victory Gardens for Peace initiative, which includes the educational programs that we did. We've also developed a garden-friendly community resolution, which is a resolution that we can pass in different cities, in towns, and businesses can pass it, or communes or neighborhood associations, that says we understand the importance of home and community gardening for the health, food security, and community that we desire. And so passing that from the top down and organizing from the grassroots to introduce this resolution leads to a situation where we've established in our minds and out into the world that we want to do this. That helps create some momentum and organize these energies. And then we have, Fort Bragg, we passed this resolution last year, which led to the city of Fort Bragg giving us land to start a community garden, led to a number of private landowners saying, hey, I've got resources, let's do a community garden, we need this. it's led to all these people in the community wanting to do something.
Which is, it's about those, it's about the government and the people, those that own and those that don't own, coming together as a partnership to support everybody's well-being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're a community.
Yeah.
Con with
Yeah.
unity. One.
Yeah. That's good. We tend to forget.
Yeah.
I forget. Good point.
Yeah, I mean it's a beautiful thing when
Yeah.
you see when all these divisions are happening in our society, and then people are like, you know what, screw that. Let's work together and do something here now.
Yeah.
And that is medicine for the feelings of isolation. And so, you know, we've passed this resolution. We're starting community gardens. We have this method that there's no other agricultural method that you could add that I've investigated and looked for. And if I find another one, I'll do that one instead. That is something that every single person can do without running out of those water and soil resources or energy resources. So we have this method that can be applied all over the place and can work. We know it's proven. And then we have our education and outreach. We have this resolution. Then we've got Garden Corps, which is like AmeriCorps or Peace Corps, which trains small teams to support these communities with volunteerism.
Small teams nationally and internationally.
Yeah, so next year we've been developing this program. Actually, the course you were a part of last year was a part of developing the curriculum for that.
Yes.
And so over the last couple of years, we've developed the curriculum and figured out exactly what this is and how it works. And so now we're ready to roll it out in 2021. We've been fundraising, and the idea is that the community fund, the students, the small team of people, 3 to 5 people in a community, would work and fundraise within the community to invest in them with the agreement that they're going to come back and then commit themselves to 50 hours a year of community service each person. So it's an investment in the community, in training and reskilling and beautifying through home and community and garden culture, and establishing food security and community resilience through that, and bringing people together. All the positive benefits of home and community gardening. And it's a very cheap course. We've made it so that there's scholarships coming from Ecology Action. The Stanford Inn is supporting this through providing the space and resources, and then the community supports this through helping people who can't afford the program or would like to commit themselves to community service this way. And so, yeah, we're looking at this challenge and we're saying, well, how can we start a movement? How can we get that momentum? How can we support it scientifically and professionally and create jobs and create hope and create inspiration that draws everyone in together to create the new paradigm that we all know we need?
You know, this is a great example of how it moves me. Just thinking about the vision that each and every one of us has within to share and to expand, and if we just hold that vision in the light of our consciousness, we don't have to know how we're going to get there. We just have to know that we're on path. And so we might, if we listen to the news on a daily basis, it can be very it can be disturbing and extremely anxiety producing. However, you're choosing, I'm choosing, so many other people are choosing to hold the vision of higher, of greater, of light, of connectivity, of conscious action to make a difference. Not worrying about whether we can do it in time, knowing that we're doing it in the time that is present to us today, and we hold that vision, it shall be, regardless of all the negativity that is about us. It's powerful, man.
I love it. Yeah, and you put it so well. It reminds me, like, when I look at these plants, another great thing about working with nature in this way and building an ecosystem around you to support you that you're also supporting, is that, you know, this plant isn't asking the questions, how am I going to do this? You know, it's not asking, how am I going to create the seed so that I have future generations?
Good point.
It has this internal spirit inside of it that just knows, this is who I am.
Yes.
This is what I do. This is what I need. I'm going to do it. And there's something so simple and beautiful that you can experience in the garden with the way nature works.
Yes.
And all the relationships that build the integrity of an ecosystem. The pollinators. This plant needs the pollinators, right?
Yes.
It needs that external relationship and that interaction and that community.
It's like an unsaid trust.
Yeah.
That everybody will do their part.
And there's something that, like, as much as it is this plant, and as much as it is the pollinator, and as much as it is their relationship, there's actually this spirit and force behind it, nature. That even if these plants disappeared in our ecosystems and we experienced the sixth max extinction,
Yes.
the Earth's going to come back.
Yes.
And it's good. There's the force in nature that, and it would be tragic to lose this all. We don't want to do that. We want to figure out how to work with it.
Yes.
Be a part of it. And we do that through engaging our human spirit in these creative forces. And there's destructive forces too. You know, the world isn't just, you know, there's a hummingbird right there. A cat can run and grab that hummingbird right now and rip it into shreds.
And yet, is it really destructive, or is that just part of the interplay?
It's the give and take.
Yeah, the give and take.
And so,
Yes.
you know, there's a lot of destruction and suffering going on right now. And we have to ask the question, is it necessary? And we have to figure out how to minimize that.
Yes.
Grow from that.
Yes.
What do we learn from this so that we don't create habits which keep bringing back
Right.
these tendencies for making these mistakes again,
Right.
and hurting our Mother Earth and hurting each other. You know, let's get back to the basics and just engage our human spirit, something creative that supports life around us.
Yes.
That's a part of the give and take, and it's not just take.
Yes.
So yeah, I think the garden is this beautiful, like the old alchemists, you know, they had these laboratories where they would try and transform, you know, lead into gold and all these things. And to me, the new alchemical laboratory, which is really an internal thing, but having that space where you can see the natural processes and see how you're a part of those processes.
Yes.
And integrate those things so that you grow as a human being the way that nature grows.
Yes.
So that you can be a part of this whole system and experience the above and below and the within and without. The garden, to me, is the perfect laboratory for these things. The principles of salt, sulfur, and mercury, they're in the plant. Salt, salt in the root, sulfur in the flower, mercury, everything in between.
Yes.
You see the zodiac and all that. You see the astrological influences are so obvious in the plants. The moon, so obvious in the plants. These rhythms and pulsations of the entire cosmos, within and without, you can observe in the plant and study that, and then see those processes in yourself. And through that reflection and integration, there's this like fertile soil, which that's alchemy. The root of alchemy is chem.
Yes.
Which is the Egyptian word for fertile black earth. So that's what we're trying to create, is fertility as we're working with these natural forces, not just in the soil, but within ourselves, to be this creative contributor to nature. We get to experience that.
It seems to me that when you do the garden, it inherent, and you do it devotionally and gently and surely, connectedly, there's an inherent meditation that unfolds, an active meditation that awakens a wisdom you didn't know you had 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And you know, it's not about your religion, it's about your spiritual connection.
Yeah, and it's about the process of growth. And, you know, experiencing the seasons as you grow through. You know, I feel like I'm in the summer of my life right now, moving into the autumn of my life, and whatever, you know, and all the micro and macrocosm and all that stuff. But it's like, would you experience this dissolving of boundary, whether it's between two people,
Yes.
or whether it's between you and the garden?
Yes.
You know, there's this oneness that you feel. It's connection and peace, and it gives you energy in a way that food doesn't, or in a way food can if you experience that when you eat. And so, you know, it's a constant reminder. You garden and you're by yourself and you're digging the soil and thoughts are coming into your head and you watch them go by, you know, just like they say in meditation. But then when you be present and experience the connection, you just stop for a moment and feel a part of it. It's magic. It just awakens you and it makes you so happy. And it's that level of sustenance. People say flowers feed the soul, right?
Yes.
And it's that same kind of that give and take, on another level. So yeah, I think awakening to that sense of oneness around you and being a part of that and feeling like you're contributing to it. We can sit in a dark room and feel the oneness, and then it's kind of, for me, having experienced some meditation and stuff, being in the real world and experiencing something like maybe in India they would call karma yoga.
Yes.
Being out in the world and being a part of it and not going and living in a cave and just being on your own and finding your peace in the cave. How do you find your peace in the middle of the ship? And that is when we can create these gardens in war-torn communities. We have friends in Kenya who have worked in Sierra Leone and have worked, I think Al-Shabaab is out there, one of the terrorist groups, and there's groups of people that steal children and create these fake orphanages so that they can raise money by kidnapping children and saying they have orphans. And there's been projects that we have friends who have worked with who have rescued these kids and given them a garden. And it's beautiful. I mean, you can't even imagine the trauma that some of these people have been through. And to have that healing place of connection is powerful.
So when you speak of children, I think of you have another life. And you just brought forth another life. What is the name of your child? And Olivia. And what is your life, how do you experience your life at home? And how that integrates with what you do on a daily basis?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're new parents, first-time parents, and we had our baby in the peak of COVID. And so everything's been interesting. It's been challenging, I think, to have the support networks because we can't meet with people. We can't hang out with our other friends who are new parents too. My parents still haven't met the baby. She's almost 5 months now, so it's all been through Zoom. So there's some things that have been challenging that I can imagine if it was a different time it would be different. But we're so blessed, and so we're fortunate. Both me and my partner are fortunate enough to be able to shift our jobs so that we work part-time. I actually work full-time, but I get to spend some of my work at home doing work and then work in the garden. So I'm able to be there with her, and we're able to raise her despite all the challenges that we're facing right now. And it's just a joy. I don't even know what to say. It's just I tell people, they ask me how it's going, and I say it's everything all at once. It's like sleepless nights, but also just extreme exhaustion and extreme happiness, and it's just all together in this beautiful ball. And the giggles, she started giggling and laughing and smile. She's amazing.
How old is she?
She's almost 5 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I couldn't have been prepared for that.
So when you think of you and your wife envision the growth, the rearing of your child, have you had conversation about particular values that you would like to assure that she's instilled?
Yeah, it's interesting because I put off having a child for a long time, and because I felt like I wasn't financially there. I had a lot of fears, but I think we're justified. I was working for several years for $300 a month, so that was a tough situation to. If I didn't want to sacrifice that in order to meet those goals, if I wanted to bring a child in, I would have to change the direction of my life, which I didn't really. I felt like there was a way I could work it out, and so my partner Jamie was patient enough with me to hang in there while I got my shit together, and so we're in a good place now, and things just we feel blessed that they aligned a little bit. So it feels like the right thing, and it feels like the right time. It's a blessing, but yeah, the values, you know.
Like the top three that you would you want to assure that your child integrates and expresses.
Well, I know she's an Aries, so
Okay.
I don't know what, I'm an Aries too, so I don't know how that's gonna go, but in terms of the values, you know, I want her to be who she wants to be.
Okay.
You know, and I want to be able to support her through that. And I hope that she's growing up in a situation with parents who are. Jamie's also helping me start these community gardens.
Mm-hmm.
We're working together.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so we hope that she's brought into a sense of feeling connection with people and seeing the value of selflessness.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we embody those values
Mm-hmm.
and continue to develop as people that way. And yeah, I hope she just kind of absorbs the good things around her that Jamie and I both love.
Yes.
And I hope that she perseveres through the challenges in life. You know, there's a lot of challenges with living in a rural community where we're not totally off the grid, but we imagine being so in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking for land to build our own home and do all that. So we hope that that's another self-sufficiency,
Mm-hmm.
but also relying in community and working
Mm-hmm.
together with people. We hope that she finds that strength to. We're looking for that holistic lifestyle.
Okay.
Being a part of a place, being strong on our own, but also contributing. I can only hope that Olivia gets to experience what we dream
Yes.
possible. That if it's not her dream either, there's a lot of kids who grew up out here with that same.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been brought to this part of the world of Mendocino County to follow this self-sufficiency, living off the land, ideal romantic vision.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the kids who grew up here in the 80s and 90s took off.
They're gone.
They don't want any part of that.
Yeah.
So I'm open to whatever.
So the
happens.
world needs us all
Yeah.
because I mean, I'm realizing as I get older, there's no right way. There are just a multitude of different ways, and yet one way to which we can all ascribe is that which honors, respects, and supports others, regardless of how they look at life, as long as they have those, they hold those same values of respecting others.
Yeah, and I think one of the best things about being a new parent is I'm realizing how much I value the perspectives of people who have gone through all this
Mm-hmm.
and their wisdom in it. Because yeah, it really changes everything once you have a kid. And like I really,
You had no idea.
I love my parents so much more now for what they must have done.
And you're actually thanking them.
Oh
As
my
my
God.
kids are thanking me, and those moments when they thank me, I go, wow. Wow.
I never
how
thought
cool.
I'd do that.
And then I think back to when I started to thank my parents, and it just takes us a while to wake up. Thank God we
That
got.
individuation. It's like you got to become your own person.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's being a rebel or going out and making some mistakes.
Right.
Hopefully you come back and see where you came from.
Yes. Yes.
Patience.
So when you do your classes with people, what are the takeaways you want? I mean, I remember when I did 10 weeks. There's a lot to integrate, a lot to just receive and be aware. And yet, I didn't go home going, man, I understand this. Let's go for it. Now here it is for me. It's a year later. Now I'm ready to implement that which I've learned, and yet it's almost like I'll have to learn it again. Although I trust that I have the roots of the understanding within, reflective of your guidance and mentorship. So when students leave here, what are key takeaways you want them that you feel they can they'll be able to tangibly take with them?
Yeah. Well, we have a variety of programs, and I knew you before the program, and I think I suggested like take a 3-day workshop first, But I know you, and you want it all in.
You told me that? That went right
You
over
want it
my
all
head.
in, man. So yeah, there's what we figured out. I think over the course of the almost 50 years the organization's been there. I've only been working with them for 10, but I'm a lifer, and I can say that this is
So you've been with them for 10, not 6 years.
no 10 years, yeah.
Okay. All right.
And so the one of the beautiful things is that this pattern language of how we grow soil, conserve resources,
Yes.
and provide sustenance for ourselves
Yes.
and the community, that can be scaled up and scaled down. And so there's an easy place to begin. And it's not with this gigantic garden that we have here.
Mm-hmm.
That's not where you want to start. Alan Chadwick, who was a major inspiration behind Ecology Action, and John Jeppens, who's an amazing gardener, one of the best gardeners of all time. There's a great website called the Alan Chadwick Archive that's got all these. He was out of anthroposophical,
Mm-hmm.
theosophical upbringings, and just a tremendous force of a person. And he said, he said a lot of things, but there's the beautiful thing. Alan said, do one bed and do it well, and that's one way to look at these things. He also said it's the garden that makes the gardener, and not the gardener that makes the garden.
Mm.
The garden that makes the gardener, and not the gardener that makes the garden.
Mm.
And I think in those two statements, it's interesting that humus is what we talk about in soil. That's like this powerful,
Mm-hmm.
fertile substance that's a mystery. Science does not grasp what humus is. You look up the definition of humus, and it says a complex carbon molecule. It's totally insufficient to say what humus does. Humus is the life support of the living tissue that is the fertile earth that allows for us to even be here. And it's made through the life into death, into life again.
Wow.
It's this moment when an organism, like a plant, dies and falls to the soil, and the microbes break it down, and it goes through decomposition, and then it goes into recombination, which becomes the fertile basis for life to spring forth again. So
There's the alchemy.
there's the alchemy.
Nature's alchemy. Yeah.
And so humus, the root word hum, is the same root as in human.
Mhm.
It's the same root in humility. And so one of the things I like to joke about is it takes humility to grow humus. And so, starting with one bed, doing it well, having the humility and the patience, and accepting that you're going to make mistakes. That's how we learn how to do things. When we're gardeners figuring out how to garden again, we will kill some plants accidentally, or we weed the plants on purpose. We kill them, and then we put them in the compost pile to become humus. And our experience of gardening and learning is a composting process of decomposing and understanding what's going around us, and then recombining it into a synthesis of, okay, what did I learn this year? How do I move forward and become a better gardener next year? And I think we have a variety of programs. We have 1-day workshops, 3-day workshops, 5-day workshops. We have 2-month internships, 4-month internships, 6-month and 8-month internships. We have course series like you did that meet on Saturdays for 10 weeks, and then the second part to those courses if people want to keep going. We have 1-year and 3-year apprenticeships. We have all these free materials that are available in a variety of language that make it so that you don't have to come here to learn this stuff. You can watch these videos for free and take these publications for free. And in a certain way, maybe there's so much out there that it can be overwhelming. Where do I start? But start with the basics. And grow a few plants and see how that works. Many of us have lost in one generation. We lose so much knowledge if it's not carried forward, passed on. And our culture, my generation, I can speak for myself, has been so disconnected from the past. And what we used to just know and understand because we grew up with our grandparents in the garden, we've had to start from scratch again. And there was literally 12,000 years carried of agricultural knowledge and understanding how to relate with the rhythm and the forces around us to sustain ourselves that over a few generations we've sacrificed in order to just go buy it at the store.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wonderful. The ability to just go buy our food at the store is amazing, that we don't have to struggle to yet so many people struggle to have the money to buy food at the store. And for those people who have lost their connection to their agricultural past, who aren't given a fair chance, and who have been stepped on, so that we can have that in the store. That needs to be fixed. But so in this process of relearning and remembering what it is to relate with the soil, to be a part of that, to find sustenance in nature the way we've been designed to. That's why we have hands and feet. It's not to do this maybe all day. Maybe it's to dig and harvest and eat.
Whoa.
Or maybe it's all the above. But yeah, it's, there's a variety of resources we offer, ways to meet people where they're at. So anyone who's interested can email me, Matt at Victory Gardens for Peace, or go to growbiointensive.org or victorygardensforpeace.com. And it's our passion. We are here to serve and provide that portal to all this information and to help people get started. We also have a free seed bank. If you want seeds, you can email me, Matt at Victory Gardens for Peace. We'll send you a list of seeds. You tell us what you want, and we'll mail them to you for free. If you want to make a donation to cover postage, awesome. But we don't demand that.
And Ecology Action is always open to donations, because really that's the sustenance of how you work financially, and the people that the Garden Corps that go around the world in these groups. I mean, the way they get paid is from all of us, right?
Yeah.
And
People who share this vision and understand that.
so even if we don't understand, we're not incorporated in it yet, just by donating the financial energy that we've been blessed to have, we can make a difference in spreading the garden consciousness that we all need to have to survive and prosper on this planet.
Yeah, I mean, with these community gardens, some people can come out with a shovel and help dig, and that's how they find their contribution and fulfillment and the give and take and that return.
Yes.
They find it that way. And some people contribute seeds, some people contribute money, some people write a letter of recommendation to the city council. So whatever we can do to support healthy, strong communities, there's no better time than now to do that.
So, what would you say? We're about ready to close, and God, it's been nice out here doing this. The wind blowing. We're on the Mendocino Coast, by the way. For those of you folks who, just for clarity, Mendocino Coast is on the edge of the expansive, just majestic Pacific Ocean, and it's a place my wife and I come to on a regular basis. We have a place in Albion, and it's a place to retreat, to breathe fresh air, to smell just a multitude of wonderful aromas, to slow down, to give thanks. And so we're sitting in the middle of the gardens at Stanford Ranch Inn, which is a vegan no meat hotel that is just a dynamic place to visit and to appreciate. Right now they're going through the machinations of challenge with the COVID debacle that we're in.
But we're keeping going.
That's right.
And the garden keeps growing.
That's right. And so we're sitting in the middle of the garden just appreciating it. So I've just loved this interview.